Good morning, everyone. Welcome to fall and to DeSales University. My name is Father Tom Daly, and I direct the work of the Forum for Ethics in the Workplace. So I thank you all for coming to our breakfast this morning. Given the topic, I have invited Audra Carr, who's one of our board members and the CFO at Cedar Crest College, to guide the proceedings today, which I hope will be a certainly lively discussion, as we usually have here. But let me introduce Audra, who will take it from here.
Good morning. I know it's early, but we have a really great presentation today for you, and it's my pleasure to be here in front of you to talk about a very pressing and important topic today, the gender wage gap. In 2015, studies have shown that women, on average, were earning 75% or 79% versus their male counterparts. That's a 21% wage gap. I'm pretty sure women did not only work 79% of the time. And on average, women earn less than their male counterparts in almost every single job classification. Yet women make up nearly half of the workforce. Half of the workforce. It's pretty staggering. The Institute for Women's Policy Research has released a staggering statistic that if the rate of change continues at the same slow pace it has for the last 50 years, that it would take 44 years, and I know it's early, so I'll do the math for you, that's 2059, for women to finally reach parity. And I don't know about you, but I don't plan on working till 2059. In my 15-year working career, I've worked at a large national Big Four public accounting firm. I've worked at a Fortune 500 company, and I've also worked at a women's college. And the topic of discussion has remained in all those places. They have released changes and policies on women's equity and women's parity. Viewpoints are always talked about and shared, but the outcome has remained the same. So what can we do? What can be done? Why is there a glacial speed to this movement? Why is it so slow? And how can we begin to bridge the gap? I am so pleased to have two very, very strong women here to talk with us about this wage gap, and I'm happy that you're all here. I want them to provide you advice on how to help women navigate the waters ahead, but also help us advocate for each other as the future comes in front of us. So without further delay, because I know the topic of discussion is very important, I want to introduce to you two of our speakers. We first have DENISE MAIATICO, right? I got it. I'm like saying it in my head. For the Vice President of Operations for Meyer Jabara Hotels. She's going to give you her presentation, and then we will have Jane Long, attorney for Fitzpatrick, Lentz, and Buba, who is also the Vice Chair of the Lehigh Valley Economic Development Corporation. So, DENISE, come on up.
Good morning. In 1963, President Kennedy signed into law the Equal Pay Act. 1 year later, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964, citing equal pay for equal work. 1963, 1964, so how are we doing? Well, you heard from Audra that 50 plus years later, women earn 79 cents for every dollar of our male counterparts. And maybe that doesn't sound so awful. 79 cents, you've come a long way, baby, right? However, if you look at an annual median wage for women versus men, that's actually $10,800 less than a man doing the same work. And if you consider that over the span of a career, it's $500,000. $500,000 should certainly get our attention. In the hospitality industry, my industry, we're actually a little ahead of the averages. We pay women 82% of what we pay men. In the Lehigh Valley, 33,500 people work in the hospitality industry. The hospitality industry is hugely significant to the economy of the Lehigh Valley. Since December of 2014, 41.9% of new jobs are in the hospitality industry. This is higher growth percentages than destinations like Orlando, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New Orleans. So let's drill even a little bit deeper. Let's talk about the hotel business. That's where I work. There's 60 hotels in the Lehigh Valley. Out of 60 hotels, 15 of them are run by women. We have inequities not only in compensation, but also inequities in representation. So I think there's two important conversations today. One is, why does the discrepancy in pay still exist? Why has it only improved 5.3% since 1989? It is at a glacier's pace. And why are so few women in leadership positions? According to a report by the Joint Economic Committee of U.S. Congress, we are confronted with business systems that result in what they call mommy penalties and daddy bonuses. The hospitality industry is a great example of some of these challenges. Our industry operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and peak business happens on nights, weekends, and holidays. That can be very challenging for anyone, and it's essential to have a support network that would allow for both personal and professional success, particularly challenging for women who still bear the majority of responsibility for caring for children, caring for aging family members, and managing household duties. This makes balancing career very, very difficult. But there is hope. There is hope. And in one small case study of Meyer Jabara Hotels, I represent 3 hotels of the 28 in our company that are owned and operated here in the Lehigh Valley. Of our 3 hotels, 2 of them are run by women. Incidentally, the 2 run by women actually generate higher revenues, actually have higher guest satisfaction scores, higher leadership scores, and higher associate satisfaction scores. As a result of that performance, our 2 female general managers are compensated at a higher wage based on their performance than our 1 male general manager. So ladies, maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
That 1 male general manager here this morning?
He's not here, right? No, he's probably serving breakfast to about 100 people this morning. But we need to move forward. We need to move toward performance pay and closing the gender gap. We need to work forward in addressing workplace policies that are flexible around family responsibilities. And as a result, we need to promote our most talented people, regardless of gender. As more women attain leadership positions, we need to mentor other women and demonstrate for them that it is possible to be successful, both personally and professionally. So I close with a quote from the ultimate working mother, Beyoncé, who says, "We need to stop buying into the myth about gender equality. It is not a reality yet. Today, women make up half of the U.S. workforce, but the average working woman earns only 77% of the average working man. Unless women and men both say this is unacceptable, things will never change." So I look forward to some more conversation. Thank you for allowing me to join you this morning.
Good morning. I appreciate being here today. Denise has given you a lot of statistics, but I want to invite you to write down some numbers for me if you have anything to write with. So the first one is 79, and I think you know what that one is already. The second one is 80. The third one is 95. The fourth one is 100. The fifth one is 28. The sixth one is 118. And the last one is a date, which is April 12, So let's go back through these. 79, everybody heard Denise say that is the percentage of pay that women get versus men. This is full-time, all jobs, annual workers. This topic is so timely right now. Whoever planned this program is amazing because I think, as everybody knows, just on Tuesday, the census figures came out for 2015, and that number 79 is now 80. Woohoo! The amazing thing about this is that since the year 2000, that number has changed only from like 77. Every year it's 77, 79, 78. So now it's 80 cents for every dollar that a man gets, a woman gets. And as I said, that's all full-time workers working at all jobs. The number 95 is the percentage that's applicable to women doing the same job, which is really interesting because think about the historical reasons that people give for women being paid less, and it's usually that, well, they're clustered around the low-paying jobs, but even in the same jobs, that number is still only 95%. And when you consider certain ethnic groups, for example, African American women, that number is 60. And for Hispanic women, that number is 55. And think about the number of female-headed households that we have in this country. That has significant consequences to our economy and our family life in America. 100. 100 is the percentage of countries in this world where women earn less than men. 28, this one really surprised me. 28 is where the United States falls in performance on gender wage equality. 28th in the world, that is amazing. 118 is the number of years, according to the World Economic Forum, that it will take for gender equality at this pace to equalize in the world. April 12, anybody know what that is? April 12 is Equal Pay Day. So women have to work through April 12 of any given year to make as much money as men made in the previous year. So since we're going to have discussion at the tables, I wanted to throw out some espoused reasons for why there is this persistent gender wage equality, because I think that will help you discuss perhaps what we can do about it. Women are overrepresented in low-wage positions, we hear it said. Well, the Wall Street Journal, I don't know if any of you saw it, in the spring did an investigative report that revealed that this also was a surprise to me, the highest gender wage inequality is in elite white-collar jobs. That was amazing to me. Physicians are among the highest groups with the biggest gender wage inequality. Lawyers are better than the average. They're 83%. There's something in the legal profession called 15-50-15, which is that for the past 15 years, women have been 50% of law school classes, and yet they are still only 15% of equity partners. And as you probably know, equity partners in law firms are the ones who make the significant amounts of money, and only about 18% are managing partners at their firms. Another interesting thing that I think the New York Times did an investigative report on this, again, just this spring, and that is that it depends on what you call a job, so that when women enter certain jobs in large numbers, the pay goes down. Pay for janitors is higher than pay for housekeepers. So the thought that the gender inequality comes only from the fact that women are clustered in lower paying jobs really doesn't bear out based on these reports. Denise mentioned the mommy factor. The fact that women take time out for child rearing is certainly given as a reason. Another thing is that they, whoever they are, say women are less assertive when it comes to requesting or demanding pay raises. One interesting quote I read in one article from a woman said, "For my first 5 jobs, I was just so thrilled to be offered these positions that the salary I was given was a secondary thought." So women are concerned about making waves in their companies. They're concerned about being perceived as being too pushy and not being a team player. So that's another reason that's given. Work-life balance tends to be more important, I think, for women. Flex time, time to be with the family. And also think about this, the really high-paying jobs, and by the way, of those elite white-collar jobs that I mentioned where gender wage inequality is the highest, 5 out of the top 10 were financial-related positions. So jobs that are traditionally very high-paying are in industries where you job hop frequently. Each of those leads to higher wages, very long hours. The personnel are not seen as interchangeable, and those are the jobs that tend to appeal less to women if women want to have a work-life balance. Another reason given is salary histories. You know, the Equal Pay Act was 53 years ago. It takes a long time if someone is starting out at a certain salary. If you are applying for a new job, what is asked of you? You know, what is your salary expectation? What were you making at your last position? So that is another reason for these inequalities. One thing that I think is really interesting that I saw in an article, and I would like you to discuss this at your tables, and they call this second-generation discrimination, which is that we are beyond the overt discrimination. We love to, and I am an equity owner in my firm, and I chair the corporate and business and banking group. So, you know, I think I am part of this. We love to tell ourselves that our companies are gender neutral. Excuse me. So, what are we missing by insisting that that's the case? And one of the things, I just want to throw out a couple of possibilities to bridge this gap that you can talk about at your tables. One of the things that has actually been submitted as a proposed rule is for transparency in wages and transparency in wage reporting. And the federal government is going to start requiring this, I think, in 2018 for private employers with more than 100 employees, and for government contractors with more than 50 employees, to actually report wages. And the comment that I read on this is that we can't fix something if we're not willing to acknowledge it and measure it. So wage transparency is one possibility to bridge that gap. Limiting employers from asking for salary history. I mean, if you are being hired to do a job, does it matter that you were making $50,000 in your former job if the pay range or pay scale for this particular job is 65? Another possibility that is frequently given is to expand childcare and expand available family leave, and importantly, make that cultural shift so that it is as accepted for men as for women. So in European countries, men also take paternity leave. Here, it's unusual. And as long as there is that difference, then there is what Denise referred to as the mommy gap. And finally, I think the last possibility I wanted to throw out there is to increase female representation on your governing bodies, your decision-making boards, your compensation committees, because I think, at least personally from what I see, we are, I hope, beyond the kind of good old boys days. But the fact is that there are different perspectives on what somebody brings to a job and the value somebody brings to a job. And unless we have those diverse voices on our compensation committees, then I think the possibility of change is going to come more slowly. I mean, I completely agree with Denise. There definitely is hope. The numbers are clearly moving in the right direction. Studies have shown that younger women are asking for raises and are that they're doing a much better job than certainly my generation did. So think about these things when you have your table talks, and it'll be interesting to hear what people come up with. Thank you.
Now we're going to have about 15 minutes for you all to talk amongst yourselves at your table about all the wonderful points that were brought up by Denise and Jane, and we'll kind of circle around and maybe help add to your conversation.